Good morning, everyone. For all of you follow me on TikTok, if you know what to do. Tap the screen, share the live out. Everyone else, grab your cup of coffee, your contractor's notebook, and your business associate because we're going to talk about the presidential address last night. We're going to decode it, break it down, and see what did he say in regards to the state of the nation and how it affects your business. So, welcome to Contractors Conversation, where we talk about what's going on in the state of the union from a business perspective. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? First of all, let me fix my screen. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. For the first time, I'm using my streaming service to stream to TikTok. So, good morning, TikTok. How are you? As we do, this is Contractors Conversation, where we discuss what's going on with legislation and how it affects your business. This is not a political point. This is not a political standpoint, but it's basically what did the president say last night? And where are the avenues for business growth? So come in the room, share it out, and let's have that conversation that we need to have so that we can transform our businesses. As you know, we were raised properly. And for those of you who weren't, let me educate you. As you come in the room, say hello. Drop a comment in the chat. I respond to every comment. Any comment I don't see while live, I do go back and read them and I address them at a later time. With that said, I want to talk about this before we get started. This is pivoting time. Now, I understand that a lot of business founders, a lot of business decision makers are in a bit of an upheaval because there's a lot of incomplete conversations being held right now. And quite frankly, the conversations are being dominated by those who are not experts, who are political pundits, who have their political agendas, those who are selling products and services that are fear-mongering. We're just going to keep it plain. They're fear-mongering in order to sell their services. And what we are talking about here is, one, what's really being said? Two, how you can position your business to not survive, thrive, and accelerate. And three, make the necessary pivots and changes to grow in this economy. Now, what I heard last night were growth opportunities. I'm going to say it again. I heard growth opportunities last night. Now, for any of those or any of you who have been in the industry for any amount of time, you know that back a few years ago, the Department of Labor said that the entire workforce was going to have to do an upskilling by, originally it was 2040. Then they readjusted and said 2030. What does that mean? I'm going to tell you what it meant. It meant the skills you currently have were going to need to be adjusted. You are going to have to take your skill set and take it to the next level. The skills you had today were not going to be the skills needed to survive tomorrow. The Department of Labor told us that 10 years ago. And we're in 10 years ago. So for those who were not listening, for those who were not following me, you kind of slept on it. So what we're seeing now is the fruition of what the Department of Labor told us. So I don't know why people are surprised. Technology is making certain positions obsolete. So companies are saying, I need to see a greater return on value. I need to see a greater return on investments. And there's this greater need or this greater look at what am I investing in? That's what companies are looking at. What am I investing in? And why am I investing in it? Now, for small businesses, as defined by the Small Business Administration, small businesses that are out here trying to make it do what it do, that are trying to succeed, trying to build, trying to grow, you will hinder your growth if you're listening to doom and gloom. I'm not saying don't be aware, but if you can't listen to what's going on without becoming overwhelmed, turn the TV off. Because this is strategy time. This is pivot time. This is the time for you to adjust your mindset and go to work. With that said, I also want to say this. It is always up to you to take advice from whoever you want to take advice from. I'm not easily offended. With that, we're going to delve into what the president said and what I see are the upcoming opportunities. And one of the things that I'm doing April 30th and May 1st, and then I'm doing it again in May in Washington, in the DC area, as I'm hosting an opportunity, 2-day opportunity for you to take your business and adopt it and modify it so that you can thrive in the current environment. What worked in 2015 will not work in 2025. I'm going to say it again. What worked in 2015 will not work in 2025. If you have, or if you're trying to operate within the government realm, and your whole claim to fame was, I'm going to make it personality-based business, as you see, your personality isn't going to cut it. And if anybody's been following me for any time, I see some of my fellow compadres are saying it, but I've been saying it for years. You need to build a scalable, solid company that positions itself as a power partner who just so happens to be, versus positioning yourself as a company who happens to be, who may or may not be a power partner. And we're going to talk about that later, but here we go. Last night, the president talked about economic growth and job creation. Now, he kept making reference to a return to the golden age. Well, we'll see. And his spending and highlighting efforts to cut taxes, which is always good. If you have a budget that does not include, or if you have a strategy that does not include tax planning, I highly advise you to get a tax advisor. H&R Block is not a tax advisor. That's somebody who does your taxes. You need a tax advisor. That is somebody that will sit down with you and help mitigate/reduce your tax liabilities at the end of the year. These are the things you need in your toolbox. I have a nice little kit called the Contractors Toolkit, and that includes a board of advisors. Those are your mentors and consultants that help advise you and make strategic decisions as you go along the way. One of those advisors should be a tax advisor. Sometimes they're the same person who filed your taxes, sometimes they aren't. As you scale and grow in business, the person who did your taxes year 1 may not be the person who did your taxes year 10. So I understand loyalty. I applaud it. Sometimes our loyalty is what's keeping us from growing. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes our loyalty is keeping us from growing. And if you're loyal to somebody who cannot provide you with the expert knowledge that you need to take your business to the next level or provide that next level of advice, then you need to reevaluate who you are loyal to. So the tax cuts and the tax reduction on inflation, I really believe is a game changer for businesses. Keep a lookout for what's coming down the pike. As I become aware of it, I will share that information with my audience. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, to my LinkedIn profile. And I always talk about these types of topics on my contracting chatter program that I go live every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I discuss these things. So when he talked about the return of manufacturing and trade, I thought that was a good thing. Now, I know the ecologist in my audience is going to try to crucify me. Hear me out. If you are an ecologist, this is what I would be doing. I would be partnering with any company who provides steel, oil, anything of that nature. I would be power partnering. You can be a steel magnet and be economic or be an ecologist. They don't have to fight one another. I believe part of the problem is it's become this antagonistic relationship when you could be power partnering with one another and become a symbiotic relationship going to the next level. I saw opportunity after opportunity. And anybody who understands the history of any nation, but especially this nation, our defense platform has always brought our country out of economic downturn. So when he talked about the return to shipbuilding, anytime we strengthened our military, we're talking about shipbuilding, we're talking about training. Hello, training consultants. Shipbuilding, that is steel, that is oil, that is the computer programs. Does anybody hear what I'm saying? If you hear what I'm saying, just type in the comments, yes. If you don't hear what I'm saying, you need to book a consultation because I saw opportunity after opportunity. I see contracts after contracts. I see things that are, quite frankly, I saw dollars. So what people are focusing on with the Doge cuts, even I see opportunities there. You know, when he started talking about Social Security paying out claims to people that are impossibly old, we know there are not that many people living over the age of 105. We know that because Guinness tracks these people. So are there elements of fraud, waste, and abuse? Yes. I talked about that in a live a couple of weeks ago. Now, fraud is outright illegal. Waste and abuse, we're skating all over the line. Now, I know in North Carolina, there was actually an RFP where they hired consultants. Good morning, Philip. Where they hired consultants to actually go through and verify these people are alive. That's a government contract. So those of you who are in business, instead of getting caught up in the noise, get caught up in how I can pivot my company. For the contracts that are being canceled or threatened to be canceled, how can I reposition my business so that I can still, because that money is still going to be spent. Whether we pay down debt, we issue the $5,000 to each American. That's a financial training opportunity. So, because guess what? People don't need to go out and buy more TVs. Hello, we have enough TVs. We need financial literacy classes, opportunities. So if you're nonprofit, offers financial literacy trainings when you heard about the opportunity or the potential for the budget to include a $5,000 rebate to the American public, I would have been saying, let me look at my programs and I will start tracking. As soon as it gets passed, my program would be out there. If it doesn't get passed, I would tweak my program to say how to thrive with or without a handout. There's just ways that you can repurpose and redo your organization so that your doors do not have to close in 2025. Instead of seeing the changes and the upheaval in the government as something to dread, these are opportunities. And as in any study of history, the greatest opportunities present themselves in the so-called darkest hours. Am I resonating with anyone? Can anybody understand what I'm saying? These are the times where the hungry sit down with a plate and feed themselves, not run around and stay hungry. But we're going to continue. I'm even go here. The federal employees that are being retired out are a good source for your workforce. Companies have been talking about the inability or the difficulty of hiring viable employees. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. So what I'm saying to you, take an opportunity, take the time, and source and vet government employees who are retiring from the federal government. Now, somebody's saying, well, why would I want to hire somebody in their 60s? First of all, stop thinking all of these employees are in their 60s. Little tip. Anybody, depending on when they got hired by the government, who has worked 20 consecutive years in the federal government is eligible for retirement, depending upon when they got hired. So some of these people are in their 50s. That's one. Two, younger doesn't mean better. It just means younger. Older doesn't mean better. It just means older. Better means better. That's it. That's all. I want us to actually take an opportunity to see who in the government is available for work. On LinkedIn, my platform, I am seeing a lot of federal employees reaching out to their network. So if you are looking to hire, if you're looking to augment your workforce, there is a fully capable, efficient workforce getting ready to be unleashed onto the market. Are you smart enough to take advantage of it? But let's just keep talking. I see manufacturing in the energy sector really taking off in the next 2 years. And my training consultants, it's a gold mine if you're willing to step up and step out on the B2B side and the B2G side, because the federal employees that are left are still going to need training. He's talking about strengthening our military. Well, our military force will need training. Our military force that's going to be strengthened are going to need welders. They're going to need tactical people that come in and help do some augmentation. There are people who are going to jump ship just because they're scared. That's going to leave openings that you can fill. Now, the Doge project is, I'm going to have to do a little investigating some of the things he brought up last night. Like the golden ticket, I think is what he called it. I don't know why I called it the golden ticket. That's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's the gold card program. I'm gonna have to research the gold card program. I don't know how to feel about that. Allowing people to buy their way into this country for job creation. I don't know how to feel about that one. But I am going live on Friday. So maybe I can come up with some things that I can share with you on that. So, yes. Does anybody have any questions that they have for me while we're talking about that? I actually believe that declaring English as the official language of the country was a good thing. A lot of people that come to this country are actually confused that we don't have an official language. So it kind of gives a cohesiveness to the language of this country. But this is what I want to talk about. I'm pulling out my notes from last night. When he talked about the AI-based Apple and the building of microchips in the late 80s, and I remember this, I was young, but I remember this. The use of tariffs to give American companies a foothold is not anything new. He's actually pulling something out of Ronald Reagan's playbook. Hear me out, walk with me. I remember Harley Davidson and Ford were struggling well, they were just struggling. In order to give those companies an opportunity to rebuild and expand, Ronald Reagan imposed significant tariffs on any motorcycle or cars that were imported into this country. That allowed Ford to reinvigorate itself, and it allowed Harley Davidson to regain a foothold in the motorcycle industry. Those two companies were able to keep from going out of business because of the use of tariffs. So he's actually taking something that's already been done and reworking it. So the tariff thing is not a bad idea. It's been done before. It's worked before. It saved two American automotive companies. It's really worked in the automotive industry. And I love the fact that he's actually, if anybody's followed me for any amount of time, and Joe Biden first year, he set aside money for American farmers. And I was really trying to figure out what happened to that money because it was set aside, but then it disappeared. So I was glad he brought up the fact that he's enforcing something that already existed for the American farmers. We import a lot of food, but American farmers are struggling. So he's just taking a Biden initiative from Biden's first year in office, where he set aside, I believe it was like $50 billion to pump into the American farms to get them started or restarted again. And anybody who is a part of knows an American farmer, who's a part of an American farm, look out for the Department of Agriculture. That money can be used to reinvest in farm equipment, hire employees, I believe, to reduce debt. I'm gonna have to go back and pull out that masterclass and dust it off again. But this is something that President Biden did his first year of office. It was a part of his $1 trillion plan. It was just never enforced. So now this administration is going to enforce it. Spending money to revitalize our farms because we import a lot of food instead of growing the food locally. So those are some of the things that stood out to me. This is an opportunity to really take a foothold and grow your business in this economy. It is not a time to get pessimistic. It really is a time that you can grow and thrive. Now, I created a class called Empowering the American Enterprise, Navigating the Future. I'm going to tell you something. We have an president that has a clear goal, a clear vision. Whether you agree with it or not, that's not the point of this platform. But if you're trying to get a thriving business in this economy, you need to be in the room for those 2 days. And when those 2 days, we're talking about how to thrive in this economy. We're talking about what changes you need to make. Some of the contracts that have been ended, those services aren't going away. What's happening with those services are going to morph a little bit. Those services are going to look a little different. And even those who are complaining about, from some of the contracts that I see that went away, they're just going to come back under a different name. What we're talking about in the room those 2 days is how you can take your current services and reshape them to meet the current landscape. And we're also going to talk about how you can power partner. This is the time where your leadership is going to have to go up a notch. I have, she's a good friend of mine, and she's an excellent leadership coach. And she talks about your leadership evolves. It doesn't stay stagnant, it evolves. And your leadership is going to have to evolve. You cannot build $1 million business if you don't have $1 million leadership. I'm going to say this again. You can't build $1 million leadership business without $1 million leadership. So join me for those 2 days. The class is here in Charlotte. I'm also doing the class in Maryland. I just haven't picked out the 2 days for Maryland because I have to pick a location, all that other good stuff. So as soon as I get the dates, I'll let everybody know. But this is pivot season. And my question to you, my audience, is, are you ready to pivot? Those who pivot are going to scale and grow. Those who don't, well, we'll see what happens. I'm going live on Friday for Contracting Chatter, where we will continue this conversation because there was so much that was said last night, and I haven't dissected all of it. There are a few more things I want to research and then bring back to you. But yes, so tune in, join me Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Contracting Chatter as we continue this conversation. I'm Luciana Turner, your host for this conversation around the presidential speech to the House. And have an amazing day, and I'll see you on Friday.